I finished up my recent Surface Pro X review by considering which device I would take with me on a trip overseas, Surface Pro X or Pro 7. I ended up taking the Surface Pro 7 on my recent trip to Japan. I've just come back and I used that device over there specifically because I plan to take a lot of photos on this trip. It's the first time I'd been to Japan, Osaka, Kyoto, Hakuba. I've been to Tokyo and Nagano and seen some amazing things, and I wanted to take photos on the journey. Now, when I take photos, I like to edit those photos in Lightroom. Sometimes I use Lightroom on a mobile device, but generally it's too small to be able to see your photos in detail, so I want to use a big device like the Surface Pro to do that. Unfortunately, on the Surface Pro X, we can't get Lightroom for that device just yet because of its ARM processor. Hopefully Adobe will come to the party and deliver that in future, but currently there's no real option for that. So instead, I used the Surface Pro 7 so that I could run Lightroom. I also like to use Dropbox to store my photos as I take photographs, and again, unfortunately, the solution for that on the Surface Pro X is not really workable for me, so again, I used the Surface Pro 7 because it did the job. So as you can see, I've got the new black Surface Pro 7, and I've got the new poppy red keyboard and pen to go with it. And I think it's a pretty good looking combination. But apart from that, if you look closely at the Surface Pro 7, you probably won't notice much of a difference between this and all of the Surface Pros going back to Surface Pro 3. They kind of all look the same. Not a lot's changed here. One thing that you will notice that's different on the Surface Pro 7, on the right hand side, is that instead of a mini display port, we have a USB-C port. Now this is a brilliant change for the Surface Pro 7, and I'm sure we can all agree that it's something that should have happened a long time ago. But adding USB-C to the Pro 7 means that I can plug in not only projectors and monitors and docking stations, but a USB-C PD battery pack or power delivery battery pack or charger. So I don't need to take the Surface Pro charger with me. I can actually just charge from a USB-C port. It needs to be the right specification. Once you've got that worked out, I can charge this device anywhere. So I carry a small battery pack with me that I use to power up the Surface Pro. Now the Surface Pro I've got is an i7 model. It's very powerful, it's very fast, and it works brilliantly with Lightroom. However, the downside of having that i7 processor is that it can consume a lot more power. Typically on this device, I'd get up to around about 8 hours of battery life. But when I'm running a program like Adobe Lightroom, I like to turn my power settings way up to the performance mode, and I could probably go through that entire battery in 3 to 4 hours. By the way, if you're considering which Surface Pro to buy, generally I recommend the i5 model. Much better battery life, no fan, and none of these sorts of power issues. However, if you're like me and you're looking for a bit more performance, then if you know what you're doing, the i7 model might tick the box. In order to get to Japan, I flew through Singapore and then on to Osaka, and then I flew back from Tokyo back to Australia. So we're talking about very long flights, up to 10 hours. And I spent a few of those hours on those flights editing photos and looking through things. Having that additional ability to charge via a battery pack was super helpful in that situation. Also, having that USB-C port meant that I could plug directly into my camera, which also has a USB-C port, and take advantage of much faster transfer speeds when I'm shifting files from the camera to the Surface Pro. So in general, the Surface Pro 7 is just an incremental upgrade, and that disappointed a lot of people, especially alongside of the Surface Pro X announcement. But for me, the Surface Pro 7 is still my most versatile device. It's great as a laptop. The keyboard, the trackpad, and the kickstand arrangement work together to make it so versatile. And as a tablet, writing, sketching, taking notes on the device is brilliant. Watching movies and reading works so well too. And the beauty of this device is that I can run any software on it that I need to. For example, Adobe Lightroom will work here, my Dropbox client, and anything else that I can dream up and find will work here on the Surface Pro 7. One thing that's worth noting in the Surface Pro 7 is the new microphone setup. Microsoft call this the Studio Mic. It's a dual microphone array that includes some noise cancelling technology designed to hone in on your voice. So if you're doing things like video conferencing and something like Microsoft Teams, having this new Studio Mic setup is going to deliver a really good quality audio experience for people hearing you on the other end. What is missing on the Surface Pro 7 is 4G or 5G options. On the Surface Pro 5, we had an LTE option, and it worked beautifully on that device. They came up with a really good solution. It just worked reliably, and it was so convenient to have that built into the device. It's a shame that they haven't included that on the Pro 7. Should you buy a Surface Pro 7 or upgrade your existing Surface? I guess the answer really depends on what software you use and whether any of those new features appeal to you. The USB-C port is great to have. The studio microphones work really well, and those new faster processors with better battery life are all good to have. Tell us what you're doing in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Tell us what device you're currently using and what you like about it. Remember to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel where we share tips on how to get the most out of your Surface devices. What did I say? I forgot. You want me to do it all again? All again. All right. I'm nearly there.